Welcome to The Funniest Thing,
Yes.
where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell,
I'm Ed.
and we're broadcasting live from CHOBO Studios in...
Beautiful Van Nuys, California.
That's right. Ed, you know what?
What?
I think it's about time you raise your credit limit.
Hey, I don't mind if I do. And today's show is called Raise Your Credit Limit with Steven Bruni. There is no limit to life. There is no limit to the amount of good we can receive to meet our every need and desire. It is our tendency to believe in limitation that makes life seem limited. The best and quickest remedy for the bad mental habit is to seek to express love in this moment. Expressing love has the profound effect of transforming all of our affairs for the better. On this episode, Darrell and Ed highlight the fact that our credit rises in direct proportion to the amount of God's love we give away. And during the second segment, gracefully tattooed Steven Bruni encourages us to invest our love in life with today's daily word, which is grace. Should we get into the breaths or should we do a little...
No breaths.
Well, let's do the breaths because we all need a little kick up the stairs, a little loving shove from time to time.
Yes, that's why last week's show was Get on a Weasel-Free Frequency.
Yes.
And we're going to share how the best... Well, we're going to actually share our experience with the best ways to get on a weasel-free frequency again this week.
That's right.
And one of the ways is to ask for a little help from above, and hopefully it'll come in a loving shove.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So let's take a breath to clear our mind.
Okay.
I rise above with God's loving shove.
I rise above with God's loving shove.
I rise above with God's loving shove. All right. All right. All right. The loving shove. That's kind of what I feel like that's a little thing in our show that differs from a lot of the things that you hear regarding spirituality. I think your mentor Dugan, was the king of the kick up the stairs.
Philosophy for living.
Not only that, but the gunny. What is it, gunny?
Mike, the master gunnery sergeant from the Marines.
Yeah, it's a gunny sack. It's a gunnery sergeant. Mike Urton gave you these loving, just the ability to
snap me out of the hypnotic trance of self-pity, fear, concern, worry. I really welcome a kabam. Okay, You're right. Give me my marching orders. And that's really what we're talking about. Mentally, we get to give the marching orders to our train of thought.
That's right.
And our feelings. And when those go they actually, the thoughts and feelings that we have are actually the prophecy of what we're going to be receiving or we're going to see reflected in our circumstances.
Right.
That's why I like that the description when we're having a problem in one area,
right?
Because it's usually always one area, and then we obsess with it. It could be anything. The new one at my, it could be little things. Something just dropped into my inbox last night about the dryer timer not turning off, so the dryer's staying on.
Yeah.
And the tendency is to have the concern and then start, which is the worry, and then start scheming in my mind of where am I going to find a guy? Should I call that last guy? No, he doesn't really do a good job. And what this is it's really putting me into a limited I'm limiting my options without realizing it. And then the fear and the scheming within my own mind starts picking up momentum.
Yes.
And then that feeling, which is not a good feeling, because it's a feeling of like concern and doubt.
Right.
Well, now that becomes my overriding emotion now.
Yes.
And I begin to see that and reflect it back to me in the traffic, in other areas of my life.
Right.
But the great news is, the good news, that's the good news of the Bible, actually, that there's no one against me but me. And I have the power to choose, wisely, or righteousness, which just means right use of mind. And then no harm befalls me. But it goes perfect with the description where I can say, I don't consent to these feelings and this train of thought. I no longer consent to be a worrier and schemer.
Right.
And now my mind, because our mind is always working for us.
Right.
So the mind wants to solve that problem. Okay, then what are we gonna look on? And it almost naturally starts to move towards, then wait, maybe someone else could fix this, or who knows who you're going to bump into. And then a divine idea will come. Oh, why don't you reach out to this guy?
Yes.
Because he just got done telling you a week ago that he had a great appliance guy. These thoughts don't come when I'm in that old thought.
Right.
But what about the times where you don't consent, but those thoughts and feelings, because if you let it brew for a while, well, we both know this.
Right.
It starts to feel so bad.
Right.
And so real. And any hopeful thought that goes, well, wait a minute, this could work out. No, because this and that will happen.
Yeah.
I really start buying it. But this is the key that saved my butt for the past 3 weeks.
Right.
Is this fact, folks. I would say, I don't consent to that, but I would still be, And you know what I did? I just sought to seek love anywhere right in front of me.
Yeah.
Whether it was Gidget the dog, then I'd take her for a walk. And I went out of my way, not in an intrusive manner.
That's right.
But out of my way when I would see neighbors.
Right.
To really to keep my mind from going back into that tunnel vision.
Right.
And I'd go, hey, how's it going? And then they would, when we start doing that, the universe responds, because love is so powerful.
Yes.
And these people always respond in kind.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just being phony. I'm I'm in desperate need for a shove of love.
Right.
So I am my most loving. And what happens is I get like chills, because when their love comes back, I get this, it's like getting a vitamin, a psychological vitamin.
Right.
And now what happens is, by expressing love here in this totally unrelated area, the solution for that original overwhelming diabolical problem that I thought there's no way I'm going to get through this.
Right.
It either evaporates or it transforms into, or a solution comes out of nowhere.
Right.
But it really does work. We live in a mental and feeling universe.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And when we're in these sort of movie theater nightmares of our mind, that's why it's so
that's
compelling.
The perfect way to describe it.
It's like it's so multisensory, because our senses start responding to our thinking.
Yes.
And
the stomach.
And maybe we've watched the movies for so long that we actually identify. I think that's like from a young age, I just started thinking that was who I was, and there wasn't someone there, because the people around me were under the same illusion. So there wasn't someone there to sit us all down and go, wait, that's not who you are. That's just your mind telling you these things. And why this idea of raising the credit limit, what that came out of for me was realizing that, one, I've had a really bad habit in the past of not giving myself credit for any of the good. Because you really think about it, when you're really being hard on yourself, when I do that in the past, I'm not giving myself credit for any of the good that I've done, or any of the good that I've received.
No, matter of fact, I can't even see it.
That's right.
And I feel like this little me is indeed, this is the real me. And the mind can even go, yeah. And that other person was just a fraud. How dare you? You know, the jolly, friendly. And it's like, oh, it can be so awful.
Well, that's the next part too, is when I'm not giving myself credit, I'm also not giving the people around me credit for being loving and supportive of me. I start thinking I'm on my own. I have to take desperate measures. If I call that person, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to hear me. This thing I desire is not going to happen. So then when I start, there's another area, then I'm not giving God credit for the million other times that these things have worked themselves out perfectly. I'm not, so raising the credit limit is really like raising the blinds, so that the light of our soul the light of our being can start to shine. And that's another thing we talked about in the big part of what we talked about leading up to this show, is that then what really happens is we stop thinking about ourselves at all and start doing what you said. I start sharing love.
Yes.
Because the big thing that really shifts me out of this type of limited thinking where I'm not giving myself or anyone else credit. And believe me, I really do think this shows up in our finances in terms of debt, credit.
Oh, yeah, it affects all.
Everything.
But that's the good news about just giving love in one area, because that also starts affecting all our affairs.
And as we understand that, these are all principles, and they all really function as a reflection of love, of life flowing through us. So when I shift back into letting go of thinking about this imaginary version of myself that is powerless and helpless, stop thinking about that entirely. Then I start imagining Darrell having a good day, Indy having a great day, my wife. I mean, really think about it in the moment when we're feeling stingy. It's embarrassing how lowly I'm thinking of other people, like the people closest to me, my wife. Because I might think in the past I used to think, I have a reason to feel pity and want to, but really it's a horrible way to be. But the simple act of imagining my wife having a wonderful day and sincerely imagining it, and sincerely imagining my son having a good day, and everyone and my students having a great day. It starts. That's what we're talking about. Raising the credit limit. It starts. Give credit to, because my students, I work with some challenging students, and it's like when it really feels bad, everyone stops giving each other credit because they stop giving the kid credit for having any chance of improving, of getting better. They stop giving themselves credit for being wonderful teachers who can influence this change. They stop giving the other people credit because now everyone's looking who's to blame. And I'm talking about myself too. I get into that habit and it's terrible. And the other day I told you I was in a funky state going into school, and some reason I had this thought. I have all these affirmations I write on the notes on my phone. I have a note with every time I think of something that's my mind is afraid of something, I tend to, or if I hear someone else says that they're going through something, I write an affirmative statement on this note that is affirming the good that they're seeking or whatever that they want to express. So this day I'm going to school, all of a sudden that feeling of going in there, the credit limit goes down.
Way down.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what am I going to do? And this is the beauty of sometimes how these desperate, whatever terrible feeling situations, I'll try anything, right?
Yes.
So I put on this Om. I have Apple Music. I put on this Om meditation. It's just oming, okay, that'll help me relax. And then I select all on that note of affirmations and press speak. So my phone starts speaking back to me these affirmations. And what was amazing, that was the solution to everything, because instead of thinking, I'll call the kid Sam. Instead of thinking, oh my God, what's Sam going to do today? What about Sam's teacher?
That's the scheming. That's the worry and scheming. Yeah. That's the killer.
Instead of that, all of a sudden, these thoughts that weren't even available to me start coming through the phone, which is, Sam is an amazing human being who is expressing his full potential. The other kid, Charlie, is an amazing soccer player and loves being in his classroom. These thoughts started to fill me up. I started to raise my credit limit. I started to come back to life. And it really showed me how shifting my consciousness, it seems so simple, but the difference between thinking, how am I going to get through this day, switching over to thinking of all the good and affirming that good in myself and everyone else and in life. It was a resurrection. That was the resurrection. I felt like a whole new person.
Well, that's the key. We got to remind everyone and ourselves. This is the good news. I mean, we've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
At least we're willing to try these silly solutions because
right.
the solution is very simple.
Right.
We just have to be willing to like playing affirmations. Come on, I think I got some serious problems.
Right.
But I'm telling you, this stuff works. And someone would often say, in Emmett Fox and a lot of these books, and you may hear it from a friend, remember the spiritual truth about the situation. And when you're feeling that, or when I'm feeling that, like I'm in it, and there seems to be, because of the nightmares become so real in my mind, and the feeling of how are we going to get by, and is this going to work, and are we in this forever, and what did I do? I can't believe the decisions I made, whatever it is.
Right.
I realized the spiritual truth about the situation is exactly what you said. The spiritual truth about the other person that I'm casting as a possible problem in my life.
Right.
The spiritual truth about that person is that there's abiding love inside them, that they're not vindictive, that the real them is wonderful and the real them is capable, and they don't need me to enable or, what I mean? That they are successful on their own. And all I need to do is be encouraging and loving in the situation, and it will right itself.
Yes.
And then there was another thing that's helped me this week, and you could do this too. I had to get to, we don't recommend digging. A lot of, and I believe it's a very mistaken approach of the always looking to find there's something wrong deep inside us.
And also believing that you're never going to be able to really be happy until every issue you've ever had is worked out. And it puts you in this sort of state of perpetually thinking, and also sets you up to think that there's these certain people who have no issues.
Yes.
And maybe in the next lifetime I'll be one of them. But don't believe the hype. That is not true.
Don't believe that hype.
We don't. We just have to deal with what's in our mind in this moment.
Yes. And here's the good news. All these spiritual books, if you read them, and I'm talking all of them, will reaffirm that is an erroneous approach.
Yeah.
The healthy approach is just to question yourself, what am I really afraid of in this situation?
Right.
That's what am I really afraid of?
Right.
And the one overwhelming situation that was bothering me for 3 weeks or so that I had to keep working this on, I realized, what am I really afraid of? And it was, I'm afraid, like, I feel insecure. I don't have any security. I don't feel confident. I feel cowardly and sheepish about facing things.
You mentioned this a few. See, look, he's still working it through, because you were talking about this like 3 weeks ago.
Well, it gets firmer and firmer. But I mean, this is the exciting realization that we have all the help we need within us. So once I realized that, it's just like, in the Bible, and I keep going back to it, where it says, he that is sick, say, I am well.
I am well.
He that is weak, say, I am strong. It doesn't say he that is sick.
Right.
Let's just go, oh boy, you're sick. You're right, I'm sick. No. Affirm the level above where I am now. I want to be the new man. I want to be the confident man. And I've been using this idea, and you'll see yourself. When you say I am strong, when you say I am secure, when you say I have unlimited supply, when you say I am confident, your mind you'll start to feel the feeling of that.
Right. That's correct.
And that is when the circumstances transform. I don't want to be the worrier and schemer.
Right.
And I like the idea I've been repeating in my mind of I am confident with love. Not a bravado, because sometimes confidence and courage is go in there, tell them how much you deserve to get paid.
Right, which is really reacting from fear.
No, I am talking confident, which means with faith that all things are possible, with joyous expectation. And my job in this situation is to exude love. And
it works because first you're taking the time to step out of the illusion that there's anything wrong in the first place that's so big that we can't deal with. And this, I see this all the time in education. And, it's like what I'm realizing is it's really about, for a long time in my life, I was mismanaging my imagination. I didn't realize that it was my imagination that was conjuring up all this fear, doubt, and worry. And what you did is first you listened to that little kid inside and said, what is he afraid of? Instead of fighting with it or blaming yourself. And then that creates the receptivity to go, no. I don't consent to those old beliefs anymore.
Oh.
I'm inserting the true belief, which is I am confident in, what I've been doing is I claim the magnanimous good that God has available to me now, and I don't care how it happens, because I know it's available to me now, and I'm claiming it.
And you know what? This is the best part of the good news, that Jesus brought, that it's a mental feeling universe. And when we choose that, and I feel confident, and I feel full of love, and I feel secure, and I am happy, what happens is my circumstances, all my affairs start to reflect that.
Yes.
And it's so exciting because then my mind starts going, holy cow, this stuff really works. And it creates a renewed enthusiasm. I want to, and the big enthusiasm, like when you're saying your affirmation and I'm saying I'm confident, it's now giving me something new to strive for. It keeps me from being complacent.
Right.
It gives me something new and improved with the new me. And as we become a new me, our circumstances rise to the new me.
Yeah, and when we say change your thinking, I'm just thinking of myself. It's, don't worry, because how I know my thoughts get off is my chest feels tight. I'm having trouble breathing. There's a knot way up my back that's really hard to move through. Something pops up in my finances. It's amazing. So when you say when you change your thinking, you get back into the flow, this is the mystery of all this. It's called new thought because it's the reverse of what we think.
Yes.
When we take the time to treat the concern, everything else will get better. The body will release the things it was doing. The finances will start to reflect that because it's more in harmony with who we all have been all along, because the pain is in resisting the good that was there in the first place.
I can't believe you said it. So, we always recommend, Ed and I strongly recommend, this is the good kick I got in the beginning, is to do a morning routine. You cannot really, these thoughts will have, I just know from my personal experience, grabbing a hold of these new loving thoughts and releasing negative ones is just overwhelmingly difficult without a morning routine. I know that personally. But once you get in the routine of doing a morning routine, even if you're having a nightmarish night or you wake up with a bad headache, as soon as you sit down to read these books, it's like my subconscious mind goes, oh, thank God, we're being kind to myself.
Yeah, once the subconscious releases the pressure, then even if there is like a knot in my shoulder blade like there was this morning, it doesn't stop me from living a full and happy day, and it starts to relax and let go instead of being like the bane of my existence.
So one of the things I do, because when you do this, inspired ideas pop up, and I can't believe you said what you said. Look what I wrote this morning. I wrote, love is the only true feeling. Love is the only reality. Anything else is my resistance to allowing it to express itself through me. Any thought that enters and barks anything unlike love, I will not consent.
Yes.
And then I will turn to the light and optimistic power of God. I am secure. I am confident. I brush aside every unloving, disempowering thought and have a wonderful time in God's love as I ... And then that followed my, best attempt at what God's will is for me today, or my to-do list.
Well, Mary Kupferle has a book called, Mary Catherine McDougall. It's called Prosperity Now. It's on our reading list, darrellanded.com. You can order it for yourself. But in this book, there's a chapter called The Wonderful Possible Now. And she says, let us earnestly question ourselves. Do we really think that there is a set amount for each of us to enjoy and have? Is God actually an arbitrary parent who says, you can have this much and no more?
Ugh.
Do we really think down deep in our heart that there are some things too good for us to desire or have? Is there a height beyond which we are not to go in our thinking, our desiring, and our asking? Let us be honest. What do we really think? If we have reservations about our good, about what we can expect, then we can start to correct them. Let's hear. You want to hear a little Neville as well?
Oh, yeah. One last little Neville.
Before we go to
break.
This
is from The Power of Unlimited Imagination, a new book we're reading from.
By Neville Goddard, by the way.
Neville Goddard. Yeah, if you have the book, This is on page 54. This is exactly what we're talking about. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, by changing the ideas planted there. For you cannot change your thinking until you change the ideas from which your thoughts flow. You don't get things and then become righteous. Righteousness is right seeing. Always claim the level above the one you are now. Always claim the level above the one you are now on by dying to your present level, for your Father's house has many mansions, unlimited. Let go of your present mansion and reach for the one you seek.
Yes. It may be just your imagination, but when you start using it righteously, or the right use of your mind, it will transform everything. That's why you got to be like a child to enter the kingdom, because it's childlike, it's fun. All right, coming up next, today's guest, gracefully tattooed Steven Bruni, encourages us to invest our love in life with today's daily word, grace. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing on Unity Online Radio.
Yes, you survived the first segment. And
so did we.
And now we're into the rest of today's show, Raise Your Credit Limit.
Yes, and I have a quick reading from 365 Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And on March 16th, the last paragraph, he said, "Today I affirm the all good, and in this affirmation, I accept the presence of love and repudiate every belief that hate has any power. I affirm peace and deny confusion. I affirm joy and declare that sadness has no place in my consciousness." What a relief.
Yeah.
I affirm that God is over all, in all, and through all. There is nothing in my past, that can limit me or limit my future. There's nothing in my past that can limit me or limit my future. There is one life, and that life is God. That life is the only life there is, and that life is my life now. Man, when we raise our credit limit, we're really redefining ourselves in this limitless way and setting ourselves free to actually be happy, man. Well, it's amazing.
And it has a ripple effect to everybody we meet. It's like, like the song, I'm going to shift it a little, but let there be happiness on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be prosperity on earth and let it begin with me.
Right. And these songs, when you say that, it's so clear. It's for me to hear that.
Yes.
It's me telling my consciousness, let it be. Stop fighting against it. Stop using rationality to rationalize why your day can't go well. I'm learning to, what's the word? Consent, to not consent to those old beliefs. And like we were saying earlier, what's the name of what you call the police? I mean, not the police, the president's name regarding the military?
He's known as the commander-in-chief of the military.
We got to learn to sit in the commander-in-chief role and tell the general, I no longer consent to those old marching orders. Then when we do that, our emotions, which are like the soldiers marching,
they do an about face.
They go,
and the whole troops start marching.
They start dancing
to bring about
like the old cartoons when they would march, but it's like it's ants.
I was thinking about those New Orleans when it seems like a solemn funeral, and all of a sudden it busts out into cheerful joy.
Yes, all of that. We want to thank our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. We have a great news. We started a Patreon account. Patreon.com/funniest thing. If you go to patreon.com, you could also look up Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. But if you just type in patreon.com, patreon.com/funniest thing, you can become a regular donator to the show.
Yeah, a contributor.
And
as little as $5 a month makes a big difference for Darrell and Ed to continue to do our show.
Yeah, because we're moving on up. We're in CHOBO Studios, and we've been paying for it with the contributions from listeners. And we went to Patreon because it's an easy way. You can donate $5 a month, or 10 or 25,
or even do a one time.
Whatever works for you. But we're stepping out boldly now and realizing you are all part of this show with us, and we want to continue to keep moving up, and we want to continue to allow you to be a part of that, and not be to raise our own credit limit. And we know that circulation really is the key to everything. So just putting $5 a month out there into something that brings you a lot of joy and healing, and Everything else, just like it does for us, will just help us to continue this whole thing rolling.
Yeah, that's only $1.25 an episode.
That's right.
And it makes a big difference in us continuing to produce the show.
That's right. Because we do believe that when you're doing what you love, that's when you're open to receive the most, not less.
That's
true.
And
we love doing this, and we live doing this, so we really appreciate you. If you want to send us anything, go to Funniest Thing. You can mail it Funniest Thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. You can check out our website, darrellanded.com. Before we thank our chief engineer at Unity Online Radio, we wanted to ask Indy something.
Our chief engineer here in Van Nuys.
Yeah, at CHOBO Studios, because we know last week we talked about how excited we were to share that we were here.
And that enthusiasm always brings a prosperous return. Yeah. That's what we were talking about. And what happened?
Well, I got a booking from you guys coming here and spreading love, so I appreciate it. It's interesting. It's so cool to see you guys so convicted about all of this, because it is true. I mean, once the brain or once the general tells the soldiers, it's not a bottom up, it's a top down thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really fulfilling to hear that, or refreshing, I guess. Yeah.
I like what you said. You never go bottoms up when you live top down.
Well, and that's the problem. When we start listening to the soldiers at the bottom, and that's when that's when we get scared. One other thing, I just want to let people know that we didn't give a reference and get Indy a new booking. They actually just saw our enthusiastic video of our first time here, and a total stranger from no one we know is who actually contacted
posted it and got a booking. So
we said it because of the love that Indy puts into this place. I mean, it has been night and day. So it's I've been so excited. Darrell and I, when we think about coming here, it is sincere. It's wow, we feel at home. We know how much you love the place, and it doesn't, someone who's not in it for the right reason might feel burdened by us asking questions, but Indy's so happy to answer anything and help us out and give us direction when we need it. So thank you, buddy. Let's thank Chief Engineer from Unity Online Radio.
Oh, he's been listening to every show, whether he likes it or not. From the very beginning in 2013, and his name's Jeff Comfort, and each week he takes us right into the comfort zone. Yeah. A quick shout out to the prayer line, Silent Unity. Yes. 800-NOW-PRAY or 800-669-7729. Now, this really helps get you on the affirmative wavelength.
Raise your credit limit
to have somebody else outside of your own mind who's objective affirm the truth for you. And we highly recommend it. We use it all the time. There's also an app, the letter U, the word pray. You could listen to a meditation on there.
Right.
You could text in a prayer request, and they'll send you an email back with affirmative writings to read. It really is incredible.
And the more you pray...
and it's free.
It's free. The more you pray and affirm every little thing, don't wait for big things.
Yes.
The more service you'll be to other people, because a majority of what we're dealing with is not giant things. It's little things that can feel really big. So the more I've come to not be stingy with prayer, and I affirm every single little thing, whether it's a relationship with someone, they might even be a side person.
Yes.
I've been affirming a friendship with someone, and suddenly she and I have been going to lunch and doing fun things, because at first, I don't know, anything that brings up little things, you can start just affirming good and let go of those fears. Don't consent to the fear. Rewrite what you want into your imagination. Let's bring up the Daily Word here. We're going to get to the Daily Word segment. We read the Daily Word every day. If you want to subscribe, go to dailyword.com. It's a great part of a morning routine.
And guess what?
What?
If they subscribe now, they'll have this issue, which there's there's a story of mine in the Daily Word for April.
Oh, and it's amazing.
God's Ambassador of Love is the title.
Yeah, and that really does sum up this whole show. Someone else who lives this stuff, has a morning routine that he practices, has been on the show before. He's an artist. A visual artist.
He's a tattoo artist.
He's a welder.
He's like that little girl who had a dream in Philadelphia. Remember Pittsburgh?
Who?
Come on, you know her.
Strawberry Shortcake?
She wanted to be a dancer. She was a welder by day.
Oh, Flashdance.
And she stuck to her dreams.
Yes.
And she didn't let that hold her back. And that's like Steven Bruni. How are you?
Yeah, Steven Bruni.
How are you guys this morning? Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, man, we're doing great, man. We're so excited to know that you're going to come on the show and join us.
Well, wouldn't it be funny if he let the cat out of the bag that it really was Flashdance that inspired him to be a welder?
Yeah, right?
How did you know?
I thought it was the dance on the chair that inspired him.
Well, that too.
What about the phone?
Oh, shoot. There you go. I forgot to pick you up on the love line. We actually have a bedazzled phone here for when I talk to tough guys like Bruni.
Yes. So, Steven, man, you've been listening to the show, and I know you've been thinking about it. We sent you the description this week. Is there anything bubbling up in your head right now that you want to share with everyone?
A lot, actually. I mean, the whole show's been so great. At the end, Darrell actually recommended that last book you guys were reading to me yesterday, and I'm so anxious to get it. But you said something that kind of inspired me and motivated me to get it even more, that had to do so much with what you guys have been talking about, that idea that righteousness is right seeing.
Yes.
And that idea of raising your credit limit. You know, I was thinking when you guys were talking about it that you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, it was really impressed on me, you know, maybe when I was real small, like, oh, you can be whatever you want when you grow up. But it wasn't said with a lot of weight. Like, you can be whatever you want as long as it falls within realistic terms, was what really was.
Right.
And then as life started to go on, I remember every time something would happen, just the cynicism was almost kind of like bled into me. Like something bad would happen, and then, you know, one of my parents would say, of course it's bad would happen. You got to work harder. No one's going to hand you anything in this life, you know, and that whole theory behind what that looked like, and that limited idea and those limited beliefs and feelings, they just kind of start to creep in. And I feel like the more I started thinking those, the more I started attracting situations like that into my life where more of those situations would happen. Right.
Right.
So, and I can remember when that started to change for me. And that was, I think, about 10 years ago, right around 10 years ago, I got a morning routine, and I started, you know, I got introduced to Emmett Fox, and I started to read some of those books, and I started to look at things a little bit different. Right. And when you guys were saying it, this story popped up in my head, like an example of exactly what you guys are talking about. And that idea of raising your credit limit, right. Or raising your consciousness, if you will, to expect better things. Yes. And I can remember that one of the jobs that I have as a welder, I had to get clearance from Homeland Security to be able to do what I did. And you guys both know that, and most people that know me know that my past is colorful, to say the least. And typically Homeland Security is not going to approve somebody with a background like mine whatsoever. And I can remember I put in the first all the paperwork for the first go around to get this clearance, and I got denied. And you know, going on my old thinking in that limited belief system, the cynicism could have popped up in me and said, yo, of course I'm not going to get it. I'll never get it. And I could have done it. And my mentor at the time said, nope, we don't think like that. We just take the next indicated right step in the direction that we want to happen.
Wow.
And I remember I waited 3 months, put the paperwork in again, denied again. Had to wait 6 months after that, put the paperwork in again, denied a third time. And I thought, and you know, after almost a year of doing this, it could have been real easy for me to take that lower road, or that lower frequency, to say I'm not going to get accepted on this. And I remember the second appeal, which was the fourth time that I put in, I thought to myself, this time I'm getting it. And I came back with 52 different letters of recommendation from different people who had seen, because of this morning routine, because of the way that I lived my life, because of the energy that I had, that I wasn't the exact same person that I was fighting to overcome, if you will, in some of those things, that record. Right. And the fourth time I got approved. I got approved from Homeland Security with a record like mine to be able to do what I did. And I honestly believe it was because of the wavelength that was going on in my head. It was because the frequency I was tapped into, and the joyous expectancy that was exactly what was going to happen.
Wow.
We could end the show right there.
I know. I know.
Bruni, that was an incredible example of what we've been talking about.
It reminded me of a kid I work with at school who has he's only 9, but he has a colorful past in that sense, you know, and both where he's from, the things he's had to endure, his
Wait,
behavior.
is this the guy that I did art with who I really liked? Is it that one?
No, it's his buddy. But those two are like partners now.
Okay, good. Okay.
But
because I just want to preface this kid, me and Ed get to see through
yes,
what the rest of the adults define them as.
Right.
Because I always thought this one kid, his partner, who's also in the same category Ed's talking about, as just a loving little sweet boy in there that just wants a friend. And when we were doing art together, I saw his big smile, and it was just like he was, the spiritual truth of him will come out if we put out a welcome mat.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it's funny, even in Steven's case. You think about if everyone really did what they loved, then the people who are at Homeland Security would probably live more up to those words: home, land, and security. Like providing people with a sense of security, not a sense of nervousness, a sense of security. Like because some people think security is, why do so many people interpret like a security guard as someone who makes people feel insecure? You know, like, but if everyone did what they loved, so for me as a teacher, I'm like in the Homeland Security role in your situation. My job is to not write this kid off on a daily basis, and it'd be very easy because the momentum around me can feel like there's pressure, and the kid can start to feel like a thorn in my side. So I have to keep doing the morning routine and refreshing my empowerment for myself and my vision of him. So he was going to come to me yesterday, and I did not want to see him. I had to be honest. I was so tired, and I wasn't ready for the antics, blah, blah, blah. So I took some time to myself, and I wrote all that out, kind of like you did. I found out what's bothering me. Why don't I want to see him? Yeah. And it really didn't have a lot to do with him. It had to do with feeling burnt out at work and not knowing what we were going to do. And I realized, wait, I don't even have a plan. What am I going to do with the kid? Of course he's going to default to this if I don't have a plan.
Right.
Somehow I got inspired. Once I dealt with my own insecurities, I got this inspired idea. Because the principal doesn't want him playing video games on the phone anymore because the kids in my school aren't supposed to. But I was using it as a reward. But I didn't like it either because when kids are on phones, it's harder to segue back into like school stuff because phone and games, and even for me, like if you're watching a show, it's easy to get aggravated at someone when they come in the room because you're so fully immersed in that.
Yeah, it's immersion. So, it's full immersion.
So short story long, I just said, you know what, we're playing chess today, and I'm going to set up the chessboard so when he gets here, I'm going to say like, welcome home, we're playing chess.
Wow.
And I didn't know I was going to work, but somehow I said, we're playing chess today. He goes, what? And I said, the principal doesn't want us using any phones anymore. We're going to play chess. Somehow he went right into it. We played 3 games of chess. All the skills and strategies that he uses on video games, he was actually, able to be really good at the chess game.
Yes, he was accessing those tools.
And I wasn't really going for the win. I'm not very good either, but I was like really encouraging him. And it was night and day. It's because I refreshed. I dealt with my own stuff and saw him through that loving lens you're talking about. And he showed me something that if I had stayed grumpy and all that, I wouldn't have been able to access or see or know was possible.
That's the key to all of this, that it's the great promise, but it's the key that's sometimes hard to remember. Like Bruni's example, your example, situations, from my own experience, it really is, or like Emmett Fox says in his one, he says, put this on your mirror, put this everywhere where you're on your car, on your dashboard,
right.
on a Post-it, you could do it. That I only have my own thoughts to deal with.
Wow.
And to get myself in the right place.
Right.
Then the people that I'm intimidated by, they end up no longer being intimidating.
Yes.
They actually, not that now I'm confident I'm not intimidated. No, they actually change because my frequency, this is the big promise that I hang my hat on. My frequency, or as the Bible puts it, prayer changes things. And my frequency, when I'm in that right place, changes those circumstances, changes those people for the better.
Yeah.
I have to believe that. I want to believe it. And by believing it, I always see evidence of it, just like you. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfectly confident. That's what also,
Not
like
at all.
you said, Ed,
That's right.
that, oh, I don't know how it's going to work. But you had that faith of a mustard seed.
That's right.
Like this
That's
was an
right.
inspired idea. It might work. And even Bruni's example, Steven, if you don't know him as well as I do, our guest, but Bruni's example of, you know, I'm just going to keep doing the next right thing, and I'm just going to keep my optimistic attitude toward myself and my personal growth and how things are changing in other areas of my life. And I'm telling you, it's incredible. This is the magic of living.
Yep.
Well, and I think someone had said it to me a long time ago that kind of like was the turning point for me in that. And they asked me, they said, what's the worst that could happen if you think positive about it? Let's just say it doesn't work. You either expect for it not to work for the 6 months that you're waiting for it to happen and you're living miserably, or you're at least living joyously for those 6 months. And then if it doesn't happen, you could probably just move on because you're in a better spot when you move on. Instead of experiencing that for so long, why not just experience it for a shorter time? Or in other words said, why not experience that joy for a longer period of time? Because there's nothing to lose in experiencing that joy.
You know, something saved my butt along those lines too, by someone, Mike Dugan. Because when I was first starting to get this, those moments of joy I was so free and high, you know, when you're first learning this stuff.
Right.
But then I started to doubt, because that doubting part of my mind, that cynical part, like you were mentioning earlier, Steven, that was still very strong in me. I said to Mike, yeah, this is great, but what if it turns out when we die, there is no God, there is no heaven, there is nothing? And you know what Mike said? He goes, well, wouldn't that be wonderful? Because then we got to live our best life, our one life, in such a wonderful way that we don't feel like we missed, or we won't have any regrets. Wouldn't you love a wonderful life?
Right.
And I was like, all right.
All right. We got to get to the daily word. That is awesome. Let's see here. Oh, the one other thing I want to say too before we do the daily word is the beauty of when I deal compassionately with my own mind, then I realize how to deal compassionately with other people's minds without getting tangled up in their mind, because I know it's all in their mind. But until I see it in myself, it's really, otherwise I'm kind of faking it, you know, until I know. So let's get the daily word out of Steven Bruni, because we got to wrap this show up soon.
All right, we got it. And you know what's funny? I realized this morning, the first time I was ever on your podcast, it was also on grace. So funny that we're coming full circle.
Oh, wow.
Gracefully tattooed, Steven Bruni.
Okay, grace, Saturday, March 19th, 2022. God's grace shines upon me. Just as the sun extends its warm rays onto the world without discrimination, God's grace shines freely upon me and illuminates my life. This compassion demonstrates and extends from divine, unconditional love, and I soak it in with like sunlight. Grace gives me the comfort and security of knowing I am a part of God, and nothing I could do would ever change that. I am grateful for the grace I receive, and I want to share my graciousness with all others. Every day, I do what I can to share grace, whether I am interacting with a new acquaintance or connecting with someone I know very well. I offer each person the courtesy of friendliness and goodwill. Basking in the grace of God, I radiate kindness to all. Grace, mercy, and peace will be with us from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Father, Son, in truth and love. 2 John 1:3.
Dude, that's awesome. You know, Bruni, your story also reminded me of when the guy asked Jesus, like, how many times should I forgive? 7 times? And he's like, 7? Try 7 times 77. And we really need to apply that to ourselves. Yes. How many times should I forgive myself? As many times as it takes to actually let God's
until it clicks.
Will happen. Let the love, let the realization of who we are come through.
And it will come through. It always does come through. The light will dawn in our consciousness.
Steven Bruni, thank you for hanging out, but continue to hang out for the wrap up of the show. We have a little story that we want to share with you about the time. You'll probably remember this because Darrell and Ed went out to lunch with Steven Bruni last week. He told us how when he was in high school, he wasn't yet the handsome fellow we know today. He said it was an awkward time and he could never get a date.
Wow.
Darrell and Ed were surprised. Really? We imagined you quite the ladies' man, Steven admitted.
Well, I did always have a pretty girl on my arm.
Darrell and Ed replied, wait, you said you could never get a date. How did you always have a pretty girl on your arm? Steven shrugged.
It was a tattoo.
Oh my God. From the mailbag, Kathy Quinn from Culver City said, hey guys, I was in a meeting the other night and a speaker was talking about a podcast that he loves called Funniest Thing. And he actually quoted something from the show. Of course, I can't remember what it was now, but when it was my turn to share, I asked him to confirm that it was in fact Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, and it was. He was from Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, by the way. You have fans everywhere. Love to you both. Kirk Chelson sent us a tithe. I was going to send a tithe to Unity. But after seeing their website, I thought, what the heck is Unity? And I thought, you guys are sharing Unity's principles, much more like the Fillmores, so have a coffee on me. Well, thank you, sir. I forgot what that said. Oh, my gosh. Tammy Faye Baker's here.
I just love you boys so much. You're the sweetest little angels I've ever met.
Well, thanks, Tammy Faye. Well, why did you come to the studio today?
Well, because your show just keeps bringing me higher and higher, just like Jesus does.
You got a song for us?
I sure do.
Why don't you hit it?
All right. Jesus keeps taking me higher and higher. Higher and higher, higher and higher. Jesus keeps taking me higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. Daily hiding me in his abiding love. And when I stumble, he gives me a shove. Yeah! Jesus keeps taking me. Visit DarrellandEd.com to find easy links to everything we do.
Ruben, we love you. Steven Bruni.
And thank you
CHOBO
so
Studios.
much
Jeff Comfort.
for being a part of Funniest
Jesus
Thing
keeps
with
taking
Darrell
me
and Ed on
higher and
Unity
higher.
Online Radio.
Higher and higher.
Higher and higher.
Say, Jesus keeps taking me higher and higher. Higher and higher, higher and higher.
Daily hiding me in his abiding love. And when I stumble, he gives me a shove. Yeah!